sport is the world's biggest religion, and football within that is the largest entity. So I was delighted when my good friend Unmesh pointed out to me that I should listen to the Unofficial Partner podcast with Gareth Balch from Two Circles, talking about where sport was today and the revenue league, the Sports IP revenue league. And I love the fact they kept referring to Sports IP because that is how people refer to my company, Sports Investment Partners, and our email address. So I expect to see a bunch of misdirected messages in the coming weeks. But if I go back to that phrase that sport is the world's biggest religion, and I love that phrase. I first heard it from my good friend Luis Vicente, who talked about it quite a lot when we were at FIFA. And I think the numbers that you see coming through in that report really start to suggest something meaningful, because I love the number 3 trillion hours of sport was consumed last year, the largest number in history. I don't know when we've been tracking it for, so I'm not sure if it's the first time it's been entirely tracked and therefore has to be the largest number ever. But I have often said, alongside Luis, that, the distribution model that Web 2 brought about has demonstrated that there is a never-ending, insatiable demand for sport. And I don't think I can stress this enough. The model is changing, yes. But the love and passion for sport, I think, is unerring. I think it's part of the human condition, and I don't think that's going to change. It has been demonstrated over and over again. The more we make it available, the more it gets consumed. It's getting consumed differently, and how we monetize it needs to change. The interesting thing around the revenue number was then, if you dig into it, and Gareth does a very good job of articulating what's in the report, at least what we get to see, was that the headline number is 7% growth. Now, it is of a large number, so the real dollar sense is large. But that demonstrates also that sport is actually more of a mature industry and not a growth industry. 7% growth isn't exotic. It talks about 4.5% to 5% going forward. Again, not a fancy number, nothing to get the heart racing. And when you dig into it and you've discovered that 44% of it is from the top 20 leagues, then you get nervous and you say, again, I'm going to reference now another friend, Ben Wells, who's often talked about the squeeze middle, which is the big keep getting bigger and the small actually have a really interesting niche market that they can go after. And everyone in the middle is getting squeezed. And again, he's talked about that on Unofficial Partner with regularity. I think a lot of these things that we intrinsically knew and had other data points, this new revenue league has demonstrated to a greater extent. I think then the conversation, I think, really got interesting for me because these headline numbers are fancy. It's pretty typical of sports, right? We love a big headline number, whether that's a transfer deal, whether that's the 5 billion people who will watch some of the World Cup. Whatever it may be, we love a good headline number, and they're super sexy, and in the past, they sold well. And Gareth does a very good job talking about you have to know the fan, you have to get to know the data, and so on. But one bit I probably had issues with was this talk of a transition from B2B to B2B2C. Because I'm not sure I've seen enough of the model changing in terms of how sports actually monetizes its industry. I think sport has always been a B2B2C business model. I just think it has sponsors, broadcasters, whoever licensing comes, they all come to sport because they're trying to get to our consumer. And we in sports, I think the one thing I've almost never seen in a sports business is a marketing budget. And I mean a genuine marketing budget. So in order for us to get to our fans, we need the sponsor, the licensee, the broadcaster. So I see it as always being a B2B2C business model. Maybe we're getting better now at asking for more data and seeing pass through on the relationship and being able to understand our audience better. And some are further along that curve than others. But I really haven't seen the business model change that much. Again, today, I was at a conference and I talked about how, if you actually look at the intrinsic value of these assets and why I'm looking to different spaces and always looking for value is I haven't seen enough people say, okay, if the model needs to change, how do we get there? If you think that there are 3 trillion videos being viewed, and going back to Lucia's comment, it's the world's largest religion and it is truly global, that 7% growth and 5% growth going forward really something's missing. And I think Gareth makes a point too, right? Which is that, yeah, things need to continue to change, and there's a lot of others are making more money than the sports industry are. So there's an awful lot of leakage out of our space. So to me, look, I love the headlines. I love the insight. I love that some of this is being distributed. It's a wonderful piece of propaganda of look how great our industry is, and come to us because we've got the data. And hats off to the guys at Two Circles and Gareth himself. But again, when you step back, it just says to me, the industry model has to change. If we want to tap into that growth, something's got to give.